Culture is a cross-cultural project where the students work in global virtual teams to put together a market entry plan for a multinational company.
Culture to me was a multicultural challenge, to be honest. It was a business proposal, it was the real deal actually, because what we do here in uni, we do essays, we do reports, very good stuff, but this was the real deal.
It's basically an opportunity for students from all over the world, international students from different parts of the globe, work together to formulate a business plan.
Culture is an international project where we work with loads of different people and different cultures.
A learning by doing experience.
You will be collaborating with 6 to 8 virtual team members.
It's an international project whereby each of our students works in an international team to complete a business report on a company of their choice.
Originally, the plan was to find one professor in another country and team up students from those two countries. Nobody thought it would get so big. Today we have about 3,000 students, 90 universities, 40-something countries. That allows us to have teams with at least 3, usually 4, 5, 6, sometimes even 7 countries per team.
I felt very honored to be also part of Culture, and I wanted to tell the whole world because it was an experience like no other.
Experience that I never had before this. Before this, I have done my assignment in my university only. All my college mates, all my course mates only. But this is the first time I'm doing a project from out of my country with a student from another country.
My group members were from Chile, Malaysia, the US, and India, and time zones were very conflicting for all of us.
I participated in it so I could learn about other people's cultures and how other people work, but also it's great to put on your CV.
To me, Culture is part of international business management course in my MBA program. Besides, I participated in it to gain experience in corporate global virtual teamwork.
It helps the students understand what we're talking about in the class by actually living through an experience.
I participated in it so I could learn about other people's cultures and how other people work, but also it's great to put on your CV.
I do the administrative aspect of Culture, and I do it because I really like interacting with the students and the instructors who do it, and I really enjoy seeing how the students' perspective of the project changes over the course of it.
A few of the challenges we ran into was basically time zones and coming up with a time that met everyone's needs.
A lot of my students would say that there's nothing new in terms of having to work in a multicultural team, because they say they've got a lot of friends on Facebook that come from different parts of the world. To which I say that this is actually, Culture is not a friendship project, first of all. It's a project where the students have to work on a real business proposal, a real business plan for a company. So this is a serious business assignment.
Two major problems here. The first of all are the time zones, because we mostly had to work in the night. Night here, for some others was daytime, so time barriers, and then we experienced some cultural barriers. But good cultural, not in the bad way, in like some people were using Facebook, some Skype, some didn't know how to use Google Docs, some small things that can be really learned.
This is the second year we've run the project, and once again it's been very, very successful despite a number of challenges arising, both in terms of communication across time zones, overcoming cultural differences, looking at different personalities within the group. But overall, our students' reaction has been very, very favourable.
The challenges that I have experienced is time zone, because it's totally different from my country and my group country's time.
A lot of our group members work and go to school and have responsibilities outside of school and work, so it was very, very difficult to work together.
There is a very big difference between what people believe the challenges will be versus what people report the challenges actually were after the project is over. Before the project starts, they tend to believe that things like cultural differences, differences in communication styles, religious differences perhaps would be the challenges. But having experienced it, having worked in a global virtual team, people report that the challenges were actually much more technical. Things like, for example, differences in time zones, lack of leadership, challenges of coordination, challenges of communication, things that are perhaps are culture-free.
They learn new communication tools. This past semester, the kids were using a thing called WhatsApp. It's like instant messaging for phones. Of course, I'd never heard of that before. We've had a couple situations where students had teammates in countries that censor different social media. So maybe they can't use Facebook with teammates in certain countries. Another learning experience for me. They can read it in a book and hear about it, but now they got a real life teammate talking about that kind of stuff.
Some team members can be little or not motivated at all, so the time difference between the team members who are from different countries. So being done with your work 2-3 days before the coming deadlines will be helpful.
It's valuable learning experiences I think the students walk away from is being able to resolve those things on their own.
I faced quite a few challenges in my team. One of them being people weren't responding to emails. Another one being someone wouldn't speak in English, they're only speaking to us in Spanish.
I had a student one time, I won't name him, it wasn't you, Jeff. I just called a student, not one of my better students, but when he reflected on the experience, he said what he had to do was get up Sunday morning and be on the phone at 10 a.m. for a Skype call with his teammates, because that was the only time that was sort of convenient for everybody. And for this kid to realize that, sometimes you have to do things you really don't want to do, it's a little inconvenient, but accommodates the team to get something done, was a big lesson for him. But it certainly reinforced the time zones and other stuff with him.
The next challenge was to know the platform my team members were using for communication.
They're going to complain about their teammates not communicating with them, their teammates aren't as motivated as them, but usually if you continue to encourage them, that things work out in the end.
Did I make any mistakes? No, not that I'm aware of at least.
Did you make any mistakes?
A lot of mistakes. I blame them on Jaren, she blames them on me.
Yes, I did a mistake. That is, I sent a plagiarism note to my group. I done plagiarism because afraid that I couldn't send my parts before the due dates. But later my group member explained to me that it's only sending first draft only. No need to be 100% completely. Then I understand. Oh, it should be like that. So at last I managed to send my parts without any plagiarism to my group members.
Probably not addressing the problems that we had sooner, leaving it to the last minute, and if someone didn't hand in their work on time, giving them another deadline and another one, instead of just saying, right, you need to give this to me now.
In terms of mistakes that students usually make when writing the reports, one thing stands out, and that is too much noise in the report. The people who will be reading your reports are busy executives. They don't have the time to read all many words that you put in your report. They want to see the idea right away. Some teams would put just too much information that is completely irrelevant. For example, the sections on economic, political, and cultural environment. People would copy the entire Wikipedia articles and put it there, while it has no relevance to the actual report. Focus on the things that are completely relevant and drop everything else, so that in 2 minutes, whoever reads your report would see the main idea and say, aha, this is what I want to do. They don't want to read all those figures and numbers and stuff like that unless they are relevant. You are not writing this report for your professor. It's not about how many pages you have. It's about the quality of your ideas and the ease with which the executive who reads your report can see those ideas.
One thing I would do differently was I would kind of establish kind of a set schedule. We never really had a set schedule as far as working on the project. Like we kind of just did it when we felt it was convenient. But we had a set schedule, set deadlines set for us instead of working on it whenever we can. I feel like it'll put less stress on each individual and be more of a group work rather than individually coming together and making one business plan.
Make sure that everyone in your team is updated on what is happening during the work in progress.
Yeah, what I tell the students is one is to embrace the experience. This is really a unique thing. And I know a lot of them complain it's not what they normally do, but to try to go in with a positive attitude. Secondly is to spend some time getting to know your teammates. That I can't tell you how many times I've heard back from the students that they go through the 8-week project so focused on getting the report done, they don't really get to know people from the different countries, which could be quite an interesting learning experience.
Studies show that teams that perform better tend to be the teams that have this personal connection, which is especially difficult to establish in global virtual teams. In virtual teams, people don't see each other, and so they don't really become friends.
Try and get to know everyone first so that you know them on a more personal basis rather than just a professional basis, and I think that will help you get to talk to everyone and get along better.
Studies show that if you spend at least 5 minutes on actually trying to meet your team members, you will have a lot more fun, you will trust your team members better, they will feel more obliged to their team, and so they will do their work better. And as a result, your report will be much stronger. Talk about their hobbies, interests, background, future career aspirations. Talk about girls and movies and cars, whatever. That stuff helps. That stuff helps.
Something I would have done differently was probably assume the leadership role, just because of like cases like this where my team coordinator couldn't finish the job. I think I would have done a good job too.
We used Facebook to avoid the time zone conflict, so we didn't have to all be awake to have a conversation.
Studies show that teams, virtual teams, that perform better tend to be the teams that use more sophisticated communication tools. If you rely on email only, first you will end up with multiple conflicting copies of the same report, and it will be impossible to figure out which one is the latest, and a mess. Second, if you rely only on email, you use a very narrow communication channel which uses only text. In order to transmit more information, in order to establish this personal rapport, you want to use rich communication media. So things like, for example, voice, things like maybe text but in real time, like a chat room, maybe even video where you can see each other in Skype or Google+. And in those tools will give you this opportunity to see each other, gestures, mimics, intonation. So that definitely helps to establish this personal connection. And studies show that that's what leads to a better product, better outcome overall.
I'd perhaps try to engage in several social media platforms rather than sticking to one platform.
Just to give it your all, be open-minded, and enjoy it. After all, this could become a real-life situation.
The power of teams is in teamwork. 2 heads are better than 1 head. One of the biggest mistakes a team can make is to divide up the workload by the chapter of the report. One student writes, for example, the executive summary, one writes the description of the economic environment, one writes the marketing strategy, and then you put it all together at the end of the project and submit it as one coherent report. If you do it that way, you will lose the huge advantage of the teamwork, which is basically collective thinking with that synergy. A much better approach would be to brainstorm every single issue together, collectively. Think all together, as many ideas as possible, discuss them, argue about them, work out together the idea plan. And only when you have those ideas, you can appoint one team member, for example, who will write it up, who will put it all together.
I would definitely try and make sure the team was a lot more organised at the start, and we had a clearer, more obvious structure to the work, so we knew exactly what part we were doing.
And then my last piece of advice is never ever give up. That it seems like a long time and it's never going to get done, but I've never seen one where the students haven't submitted a report. Sometimes they're better than others, but they've got the project done, which is a big accomplishment.
I think that for myself, I learned that managing is one of the toughest things to do. It was really interesting, and I was really good in the sense of teaching me how to work with other groups, understand their cultures.
I learned a lot about myself, I learned a lot about intercultural communication, a lot about teamwork in general.
It taught me how to do a lot of different things in regards to communication, in regards to work ethics, and different aspects of working in international teams.
Does X-Culture help? Well, we actually did a study on that. We found that people tend to improve their cultural intelligence. Students tend to be also more culturally open-minded.
I'm an international business major, and this is something that I want to do outside of school. So I know that this is just a glimpse of reality.
I learned a lot about my communication style. I became the leader I was appointed by my team, and that was very helpful for me.
At the end of the project, they see far less differences among themselves. So they have fewer stereotypes. They tend to see others as more like themselves. So that contact helps.
Culture helped me to improve my team work skills with people of different cultures and views.
Culture taught me that despite the differences, the cultural differences, despite the different locations, that you can come together with other people across the globe and work together.
There were occasions where people would say something and I might take offense to it, but I had to remember that they had a different culture and I had a different culture, and we had to work beyond those differences.
We have a number of people who participate in Culture multiple times, and so we also found that when they do it the second time, they behave differently. So they rely more on rich communication channels like video chat or audio chat. They tend to be much better at coordination, so they set up a schedule right away. They keep track of who does what. They make sure to send reminders. They are much more likely to assume the leadership role. They also tend to get much higher peer evaluations, so their teams are much happier with them. And as a result, their team tends to actually do a much better report.
I had this wonderful experience. I don't think there's any way we'd get this kind of experience outside of this project, so I would definitely do it again.
If I would do it again, I would totally do it, just because the experience was great, and it's just like something that will happen in the real life, like in the workplace.
I believe the project, first of all, teaches the ability to manage your time, to manage your resources so that the deadlines are met.
I noticed that students who probably are very frustrated with it, maybe at some point mid-project when they're putting their report together, at the end they really do reflect on it and see the value in it, and that's always really nice. And it's nice to see them gain a greater perspective of different cultures and have a better understanding of different cultures.
Culture taught me to be more aware of the cultural differences a person might face in the future in the workplace. As we all know, the world is getting more and more globalized.
Culture, it taught me how complicated working in a team is.
Something that I learned is probably know how to establish trust between team members, especially since we're working virtually. So it's kind of difficult to establish that trust.
We view it as a very useful project, and we certainly intend to run it again next year.
As an experience, it's absolutely fantastic. We're planning a trip to Amsterdam in the summer because we've done about a company which is gonna move there. So it's always good to meet people, and yeah.
The value of Culture lies in its ability to show you what's going to happen to you in the future. The thing is that even though now you work in a global virtual team as a student with other students, what you will experience in Culture is exactly the same stuff that you will experience when you do it for a living as a member of a corporate global virtual team. It's exactly the same issues with time zone differences, exactly the same issues with free riders. Sometimes some corporate employees don't do their work. You will see the same differences in motivation structure. Different people are compensated differently and value different things differently. So whatever you will see in Culture, it's like a time machine. I guarantee you this is exactly what you will see in the real workplace. It will not get any better. So while it may be annoying, while it may be frustrating and stressful, believe me, this is just a preview of what's in store for you.
I get 6 nice friends from 6 different countries.
Definitely a great experience, and I would definitely do it again.
Teachers, lecturers who think of joining the project, I encourage them to do so, and I'll also encourage the students to take part in the project. And I also encourage companies to present their cases for the project.
I actually chose to go to Atlanta and meet up with my teammates face to face. This was a really great experience, and still and now, and I plan to keep checking out with our teammates, and they do the same. We just check in on each other. So I got to meet some really great people. I learned a whole lot. So if anybody is thinking or leaning towards that route, I would say definitely go for it. Like, it's really worth it.